My high school bully is now my wife's personal trainer. He just texted me saying we need to talk man to man. My wife Joan and I have been married for 4 years and together for 7. We met in college when I finally grew into myself after years of being the awkward kid nobody wanted to sit with. In high school, I was overweight with bad acne and zero confidence. I was an easy target. There was one guy named Tyler who made it his personal mission to destroy me. He gave me a humiliating nickname and made sure everyone in school knew it. He tripped me in hallways. He knocked books out of my hands. He made comments about my weight loud enough for everyone to hear. The worst part was how charming he was to everyone else. Teachers loved him. Girls loved him. He was the golden boy who could do no wrong, and I was just the fat kid who couldn't take a joke. I left for college and never looked back. I lost the weight. I cleared up my skin. I got a good job and built a life I was proud of. I met Joan junior year and fell for her immediately. She knew I had been bullied, but I never went into details because I wanted to leave that version of myself behind. 6 months ago, Joan decided to get serious about fitness. She hired a personal trainer at a gym near her office. She came home raving about how great he was, how motivating, how he really pushed her. She showed me his Instagram and my stomach dropped. It was Tyler. Same face, same cocky smile, same guy who made my teenage years a nightmare. I told Joan immediately that he had bullied me in high school. She said people change and I should give him a chance. She said it would be awkward to switch trainers now. I didn't want to be controlling, so I let it go. Over the next few months, Tyler started showing up everywhere. Joan mentioned things he said during their sessions. She followed his diet advice and bought supplements he recommended. She talked about him constantly. Then he started texting her outside of sessions. She said it was just scheduling and nutrition tips. I asked to see the messages once and she got defensive and asked if I didn't trust her. I backed off. Last month, Joan invited Tyler to her birthday dinner. She said he had become a good friend. I sat across from him and watched him charm everyone just like high school. When Joan went to the bathroom, he leaned over and asked if I ever got over that nickname. He said it with a smile like friendly banter. I told him I didn't appreciate it. He laughed and said I was still the same sensitive kid I always was. He said some guys just never grow out of it. When I told Joan later, she said I was probably misreading him. She said Tyler mentioned I seemed tense and he was just trying to break the ice. She asked me to make more of an effort for her sake. Last night, everything changed. Joan left her phone on the counter when she went to shower. It buzzed and I glanced at it. The preview showed a message from Tyler saying he couldn't stop thinking about their conversation and that he meant what he said. I opened it. The messages went back weeks. He told her she deserved someone who appreciated her body. He told her she was wasting herself on me. He told her their connection was different, and he felt something the first time they met. She never shut it down. She sent hearts and said she felt confused. She said being around him made her feel things she hadn't felt in years. I screenshot everything and sent it to myself. When she got out of the shower, I was sitting on the bed, waiting. I asked if there was anything she wanted to tell me about Tyler. She said no. I showed her the screenshots. Her face went white. She started crying and saying nothing physical happened. She said it was just talking and she got caught up in the attention. She begged me to understand. I told her I needed time to think and I left. I drove around for hours and ended up at my brother's apartment. I told him everything. He was quiet for a long time and then told me something that made my blood run cold. He said he saw Tyler's car parked outside my house 3 weeks ago when I was away for work. He didn't mention it because he figured Joan hired him for an at-home session. I never authorized any at-home sessions. I'm still sitting at my brother's place. Joan has called 23 times. Tyler just texted me for the first time ever. It says we should talk man to man. I haven't responded yet, but I'm about to. I sit in my brother's apartment staring at Tyler's text message, my hands shaking with a rage I haven't felt since high school. The words talk man to man feel like another power play, another attempt to make me the weak kid who couldn't fight back. I know responding right now would be a mistake, so I force myself to put the phone down and think this through clearly. My brother walks into the kitchen and starts making coffee without saying anything. The silence between us feels heavy but not uncomfortable. He knows I need time to process what he just told me about Tyler's car being at my house. The coffee maker gurgles and hisses as it brews, filling the small apartment with a bitter smell that matches how I feel inside. My brother finally sits across from me at his kitchen table, his face serious as he explains exactly what he saw 3 weeks ago. Tyler's black BMW was parked in my driveway at 2 in the afternoon on a Wednesday when I was in Chicago for that conference. He assumed Joan had scheduled a training session at home, but now we both know she never mentioned any home sessions to me. My brother describes how he almost stopped by but decided against it since my car wasn't there. He figured Joan was working out and didn't want to interrupt. The details make my stomach hurt worse than it already does. I pull up the screenshots on my phone again, reading every message between Joan and Tyler with fresh horror now that I know he was physically in my house. The timeline matches perfectly with my work trip to Chicago. There's a gap in their texting that day from noon until evening, hours of silence that suddenly makes terrible sense. My stomach turns as I realize what that silence probably means. I scroll through the messages looking for any hint about what happened during those missing hours. but there's nothing direct. Just Tyler's text later that night saying he couldn't stop thinking about their conversation. Joan's response came at 10 p.m. with 3 heart emojis. I feel sick looking at it now. My brother watches me scroll through the screenshots but doesn't ask to see them. He already knows enough. I finally call Lucas, my friend from college who's now a lawyer, and explain the entire situation from Tyler's high school bullying to the current mess. Lucas listens without interrupting, which I appreciate because I need to get it all out in one go. When I finish, there's a long pause before he speaks. He tells me to document everything, change my passwords, and check our financial accounts for anything unusual. His calm, practical advice helps me shift from emotional chaos to strategic thinking. Lucas asks me to email him the screenshots right away, so he has copies in case Joan tries to delete anything. I do it while we're still on the phone, watching the email send with a strange sense of relief that someone else now has proof of what happened. Lucas asks if I want to know the legal definition of what might have happened based on the evidence I have. I tell him yes, even though part of me wants to stay in denial about the whole thing. He explains that emotional affairs can become grounds for divorce in our state, and if there was physical contact in my home, that adds another layer of betrayal that courts recognize. The way he says physical contact makes it sound so clinical and distant, but I know what he really means. Lucas tells me not to make any big decisions right now, that I should take time to think clearly before confronting Joan or Tyler. He reminds me that whatever I decide, I need to protect myself legally and financially first. I thank him and promise to call if anything else happens. I spend the next hour going through our bank statements and credit card records on my laptop. My brother brings me the coffee he made earlier, now lukewarm, but I drink it anyway. There's a charge to a hotel downtown from 2 months ago that I don't recognize, dated on a Saturday when Joan said she was at a girls' spa day with Scarlett. The charge is for $230 at a nice hotel near the waterfront. When I search my email for confirmation, I find nothing about me booking it, which means Joan used our joint card for something she hid from me. I take a screenshot of the charge and add it to the folder I'm building on my laptop. Each new piece of evidence feels like another punch to the gut, but I keep looking because I need to know everything. My brother suggests I stay with him for a few more days instead of going home tonight. He's worried about my mental state and thinks I need space to process everything before facing Joan again. I agree because the thought of sleeping in our bed right now, wondering what happened there while I was gone, makes me physically ill. My brother sets me up in his spare room, which is really just a converted office with a futon, but I'm grateful for it. He brings me a pillow and some blankets without making a big deal about it. I sit on the edge of the futon holding my phone, watching Joan's name light up the screen over and over as she tries to call me. Joan's calls keep coming through, 27 now, plus dozens of texts begging me to come home so we can talk. The texts start out apologetic and scared, but as the night goes on, they get more desperate. She says she'll explain everything if I just come home. She promises nothing physical happened with Tyler. She says she loves me and can't lose me over a mistake. I finally respond with a single message telling her I need time and space and that she should stay somewhere else for the next few days. She immediately calls again, but I silence my phone and put it face down on the table. My brother knocks on the door and asks if I want dinner, but I'm not hungry. He leaves a sandwich on the desk anyway. That night I barely sleep, my mind cycling through every moment of our 7 years together, looking for signs I missed. I remember how excited she was when she first started training with Tyler, how she'd come home glowing and energized. I thought it was just the endorphins from working out, but now I see it differently and it makes me feel like an idiot. She started buying new workout clothes and wearing makeup to the gym. She'd check her phone constantly and smile at messages she wouldn't show me. When I asked about her sessions, she'd give vague answers about sets and reps, never really describing what they talked about. All the red flags were there, and I ignored them because I didn't want to be the jealous, controlling husband. I trusted her completely, and she used that trust against me. The next morning, I respond to Tyler's text with a simple message agreeing to meet, but on my terms at a neutral public location. I choose a coffee shop near my office for tomorrow afternoon, somewhere I feel comfortable and in control. His response comes immediately, just 3 words that somehow carry all his old arrogance. I can practically hear the smugness in those 3 words, the same tone he used in high school when he knew he'd gotten under my skin. My brother makes breakfast, and I force myself to eat some eggs even though my appetite is gone. He asks what my plan is for the meeting with Tyler, and I tell him I'm going to record everything and let Tyler talk. Bullies like Tyler always talk too much when they think they're winning. Lucas calls me back within the hour after I text him about the Tyler meeting, his voice concerned as he asks if I'm sure about doing this alone. I tell him I need to face Tyler myself, that running from him is what I did in high school, and I'm done being that person. Lucas is quiet for a second, then suggests something that makes complete sense. He says we're in a one-party consent state, which means I can legally record any conversation I'm part of without telling the other person. He explains that if Tyler admits anything on tape, it becomes evidence I can use later if I need it. I download a recording app immediately and spend the next 20 minutes testing it, making sure it picks up voices clearly even when my phone is in my pocket. I record myself talking from different distances, play it back, adjust the settings until I'm confident it will capture everything Tyler says tomorrow. Joan texts me again around noon, asking if we can please talk face to face because she needs me to understand what really happened. Part of me wants to ignore her, but I know I need answers to questions that keep spinning through my head. I agree to meet her, but I'm not doing it at our house where Tyler sat in our kitchen, where he might have done other things I don't want to imagine. I tell her to meet me at the park near her office during her lunch break tomorrow, somewhere public and neutral where I won't feel trapped. She responds immediately saying she'll be there, adding that she loves me and wants to fix this. I don't respond to that part because I don't know what I want yet. The next day, I get to the park 15 minutes early and sit on a bench facing the parking lot so I can see her arrive. My stomach is tight with nerves and anger, my hands clenched in my lap as I watch cars pull in and out. Joan's Honda appears at exactly noon, and she parks close to where I'm sitting. She gets out looking worse than I've ever seen her, her eyes puffy and red like she hasn't slept, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She's wearing one of my old college sweatshirts, which feels like manipulation, like she's trying to remind me of better times. She walks toward me and opens her arms for a hug, but I lean back and shake my head. Her arms drop and her face crumples, fresh tears starting before she even sits down. I tell her we need to talk honestly about everything, starting with the hotel charge I found, and Tyler's car being at our house 3 weeks ago. Her face loses all its color, and she sits down hard on the bench next to me. Joan's hands start shaking as she wipes her eyes, and she admits she met Tyler at that hotel, but swears nothing physical happened between them. She says they just talked for hours about their lives and feelings, that she felt confused about everything and needed space to think away from our house. I stare at her and ask why she needed to rent a hotel room with our money just to talk to another man. She opens her mouth, closes it, then starts crying harder because she knows there's no good answer to that question. She says she knows how it looks, but she's telling the truth, that they sat in the hotel room and talked about his childhood and her feelings about our marriage and whether people can really change. I ask her if she paid for one room or two, and she whispers one room, which makes my chest feel like something is crushing it. I bring up my brother seeing Tyler's car at our house, watching Joan's face as I mention the specific day and time. She nods slowly and admits Tyler came over that afternoon to drop off some supplements he'd ordered for her training. She says he stayed for coffee, and they sat in the kitchen talking, that nothing happened in our bedroom or anywhere else in the house. I ask her why she never mentioned this visit to me, why she hid it if it was so innocent. She looks down at her hands and says she knew I'd be upset given my history with Tyler, that she thought it would be easier to just not bring it up rather than start a fight over nothing. The word nothing echoes in my head, because a man who bullied me for years sitting in my kitchen with my wife while I'm out of town is not nothing. I tell Joan that hiding things from me because she knows they'll upset me is exactly what betrayal looks like, that our marriage was supposed to be built on honesty even when it's uncomfortable or difficult. She nods and keeps apologizing, saying she knows she messed up badly and got caught up in Tyler's attention. She begs me to understand that she felt lonely with all my work travel lately, that Tyler made her feel seen and appreciated in ways she hadn't felt in years. She says he listened to her talk about her day and remembered small details and made her feel special. I want to point out that making someone feel special is literally Tyler's job as a trainer. That charm is how he manipulates people. But I stay quiet and let her talk. I ask Joan directly if she's in love with Tyler, the question I've been afraid to ask because I'm terrified of the answer. She hesitates, her mouth opening but no words coming out, and in that pause of maybe 3 seconds, I know everything I need to know. She finally says she doesn't know, that she has feelings for him but also loves me, that she's confused and didn't mean for any of this to happen. Her inability to immediately say no, to firmly choose our marriage in this moment, breaks something fundamental inside me that I'm not sure can ever be fixed. I feel like I'm watching our 7 years together crumble into dust while she sits there unable to tell me she loves only me. I tell Joan she needs to stay with Scarlett or another friend while I figure out what I want to do next, that I need space in our home without her there. She protests immediately, saying it's her house too and she has rights. I remind her as calmly as I can that I'm the one who was betrayed here, that I'm the one who came home to find my wife having an emotional affair with my high school bully. She stops arguing and nods, saying she'll pack a bag tonight and stay with Scarlett. Her hands are shaking as she wipes her eyes again, and part of me wants to comfort her, but a bigger part remembers those hotel charges and Tyler's car in our driveway. Before Joan can leave the park, I tell her she needs to cut off all contact with Tyler immediately if there's any chance of saving our marriage. She agrees quickly, almost desperately, saying she'll text him right now that their training sessions are over. I watch her pull out her phone with trembling hands and type out a message saying she can't continue training with him and needs space. She shows me the message before sending it, and I nod. She hits send and I watch her face as she does it, noticing how devastated she looks, how her hands won't stop shaking. That tells me everything about where her heart actually is right now, and it's not fully with me. That afternoon at work, I sit at my desk staring at my computer screen, unable to focus on anything except Joan's hesitation when I asked if she loved Tyler. My boss walks by my office twice, then comes in and closes the door behind him. He asks if everything's okay at home because I've seemed distracted all week. I give him a vague answer about some personal issues I'm working through, not wanting to get into details about my marriage falling apart. He tells me to take whatever time I need, that family comes first, and the work will still be here. I appreciate his understanding more than he knows, and I tell him I might need a few days off soon to sort things out. The next day, I arrive at the coffee shop 15 minutes before I'm supposed to meet Tyler, wanting time to settle myself and get the recording app started on my phone. I order a black coffee I don't really want, and sit at a table in the back corner where I can see the entrance. I open the recording app, double-check the settings one more time, and hit record before putting my phone in my jacket pocket with the microphone facing out. My hands are sweating and my heart is racing as I wait, reminding myself that I'm not the scared kid from high school anymore. Tyler walks in right on time wearing gym clothes and that same confident smile that used to make me want to disappear. He spots me immediately and walks over, and for just a moment I feel 14 years old again, small and powerless. Then I remember the recording app in my pocket, the evidence I already have, and the fact that I'm not here to be bullied anymore. Tyler slides into the chair across from me, and his face immediately arranges itself into this fake concerned expression that makes my skin crawl. He leans forward with his elbows on the table and asks if I'm doing okay, says Joan's been really worried about me, and he wanted to check in man to man. I cut him off before he can finish his performance, and tell him I know exactly what's been going on between them, that I have all the messages and the evidence. His smile falters for just a second before he catches himself and leans back in his chair, spreading his arms wide like this is all very amusing to him. He shakes his head slowly, and I can see him calculating his next move, trying to figure out how much I actually know and how much I'm bluffing. I keep my face neutral and wait for him to make his play because I learned a long time ago that Tyler can't stand silence, that he always needs to fill the space with his voice and his justifications. I ask him directly why he's doing this, whether destroying my marriage is some kind of revenge for me finally standing up to him at Joan's birthday dinner when he brought up that nickname. Tyler laughs, and it's the same dismissive sound from high school, the one that used to make me want to disappear into the floor. He tells me I'm being dramatic like I always was, that he and Joan just connected naturally, and he can't help it if she's attracted to someone who actually pays attention to her. The casual cruelty in his voice is so familiar, it makes my chest feel tight, and for a moment I'm 14 again, sitting alone in the cafeteria. He adds that maybe if I spent less time being insecure about the past and more time appreciating what I have, Joan wouldn't be looking elsewhere for connection. I force myself to breathe steadily and keep my hand in my jacket pocket near my phone, making sure the recording app is still running and capturing every word of this. Tyler leans forward again, and his voice drops like he's sharing some profound truth with me. He says Joan deserves someone who makes her feel alive, not some boring guy who works all the time and can't satisfy her the way she needs. He tells me she opened up to him about how our relationship has gotten stale, that I'm not adventurous enough, and our intimacy is basic and predictable. I feel my face burning with shame and anger because these are private things between Joan and me, things she had no right to share with him of all people. Tyler watches my reaction with obvious satisfaction and continues talking about how Joan told him she feels trapped in a marriage that doesn't challenge her anymore. I force myself to stay calm and keep him talking because every word he says is being recorded. Every confession of how he manipulated my wife is going straight into evidence I can use later. I tell Tyler that targeting my wife because you bullied me in high school is pathetic, that he's a grown man still acting like an insecure teenager who needs to prove something. His face darkens immediately, and the fake friendly mask drops completely. He leans across the table and tells me I always thought I was better than everyone once I lost the weight and got successful, that I walked around college and my adult life like I'd actually changed into someone important. He says I'm still the same weak person underneath all the surface improvements, that Joan sees through my act, which is why she's drawn to someone real like him. The venom in his voice reminds me of every hallway confrontation, every public humiliation, every moment he made sure I knew I was less than nothing in his world. I remind myself that I'm not that kid anymore, that I have evidence and leverage and the power to expose exactly what kind of person he really is. Tyler makes his critical mistake then by admitting he recognized my name the second Joan first mentioned her husband during one of their early training sessions. He says he thought it was funny that fate brought us back together like this, that he couldn't believe the universe handed him this opportunity. He tells me he wasn't planning anything at first, that he was just going to train Joan and take her money and maybe enjoy the private joke. But then he saw how easy it was to get her attention, how responsive she was to his compliments and his interest, and he couldn't resist seeing how far he could push it. This confession of deliberate manipulation is exactly what I needed him to say on tape, the proof that this wasn't some natural connection, but a calculated plan to hurt me through my wife. I keep my expression neutral, even though inside I'm screaming because he just admitted to using Joan as a weapon against me, to treating her like a pawn in some sick game of revenge. I ask Tyler if he actually has feelings for Joan, or if she's just another way to get at me after all these years. He shrugs like the question doesn't even matter, and says Joan's attractive and fun to be around, that the physical chemistry is real enough. But then he admits that mostly he enjoyed watching me squirm at that birthday dinner, knowing what was developing between them while I sat there trying to be civil. He says the look on my face when he mentioned the old nickname was worth everything, that seeing me still react like the scared kid from high school proved I never really changed. The casual way he dismisses Joan's feelings makes me realize she's being used just as much as I am, that Tyler doesn't actually care about her beyond what she represents in his ongoing need to prove he's superior to me. I think about playing her this recording and wonder if she'll finally understand that the connection she thought was real was just Tyler's latest way to destroy me. Tyler stands up to leave and tells me that Joan's going to choose him because he makes her feel things I never could. He suggests I make it easy on everyone and just file for divorce now, save myself the embarrassment of fighting for a marriage that's already over. He says Joan's already halfway out the door, and I'm just delaying the inevitable by trying to hold on to something that died months ago. I stay seated and look up at him standing there with that same cocky smile from high school, the one that used to make teachers think he was charming and girls think he was confident. I tell him calmly that I recorded this entire conversation and that Joan's going to hear exactly how little she actually means to him, how she was just a convenient tool to mess with me. I watch his face change as the words register, and it's the first time I've ever seen Tyler look genuinely worried about consequences. His confident expression disappears completely and gets replaced by something uglier, something desperate. Tyler reaches across the table trying to grab my phone, but I pull it back and stand up, putting the table between us. I tell him that assault in a public place would just add to his problems, and I can see other customers in the coffee shop starting to notice the commotion. He calls me a sneaky piece of trash and says I always was the type to hide behind rules and evidence instead of handling things like a man. I remind him that I learned from years of dealing with his bullying that bullies only respect strength and proof, that the only way to stop someone like him is to have documentation of exactly what they've done. Tyler looks around the coffee shop and realizes he's made a scene, that people are watching him try to physically intimidate someone over a phone. He backs off and tells me this isn't over, that I'll regret recording him without permission. I inform him we're in a one-party consent state, which means I had every legal right to record our conversation, and his face goes even paler. Tyler storms out of the coffee shop and I sit back down in my chair, my hands shaking so badly I have to put my coffee cup down before I spill it everywhere. My heart is racing, and I feel like I might throw up from the adrenaline crash. I sit there for another 20 minutes trying to calm down and process what just happened. The fact that I just confronted my high school bully and got him to confess everything on tape. I pull out my phone and listen to part of the recording to make sure it captured everything clearly. Tyler's voice comes through perfectly admitting he recognized my name, that he deliberately pursued Joan, that she was mostly just a way to get at me. Every cruel word and calculated confession is right there in clear audio. I send a copy to Lucas with a message saying I got everything we need, then I send another copy to my personal email as backup in case something happens to my phone. I call Joan and tell her I need to see her tonight, that I have something she needs to hear before we make any decisions about our marriage. She agrees so fast I can hear the hope in her voice, the assumption that maybe I'm ready to forgive her and move forward. I don't correct her because I want her to hear Tyler's words without any preparation or defenses built up, without time to rationalize or explain away what he said about her. We agree to meet at our house in 2 hours, and she asks if this means I'm coming home. I tell her we'll talk tonight and hang up before she can ask more questions. I sit in the coffee shop nursing my cold coffee and thinking about how Joan's going to react when she hears the recording, when she realizes the man she thought cared about her was just using her to hurt me. I drive back to my brother's apartment after leaving the coffee shop and spend the rest of the afternoon replaying the recording over and over, making sure every word is clear and captured exactly how Tyler said it. Lucas texts me asking how it went, and I send him a voice message explaining that I got everything we needed, that Tyler basically confessed to the whole thing on tape. He responds immediately saying he's proud of me for handling it that way, instead of losing my temper and doing something I'd regret. I text Joan around 5 telling her I need to see her tonight at our house, that there's something important she needs to hear before we make any decisions about what happens next. She responds within seconds asking if this means I'm ready to work things out, if I've decided to forgive her and move forward. I don't answer that question directly because I want her to walk in without any preparation for what she's about to hear, without time to build up defenses or explanations for Tyler's words. She texts back saying she'll be there at 7 and asks if she should bring dinner, or if I want her to pick something up on the way. I tell her not to worry about food, that this isn't that kind of conversation. I get to the house around 6:30 and spend the next half hour pacing around the living room, my phone in my hand with the recording pulled up and ready to play. Part of me feels guilty for what I'm about to do to her, for the way her world is about to shatter. When she hears Tyler's true feelings, but the bigger part remembers how she defended him over and over, how she made me feel crazy for not trusting him. The doorbell rings at exactly 7, even though she has her own key, and when I open it, I can see she's put on makeup and done her hair, wearing the dress I always said looked good on her. She's smiling nervously and holding her purse with both hands, like she's trying to keep them from shaking. I step back to let her in, and she moves past me into the living room, her perfume hitting me with memories of better times when I didn't question whether my wife was being honest with me. Joan sits on the couch without me having to ask, and I stay standing near the TV, keeping some distance between us because I need to stay focused on what I came here to do. I tell her I met with Tyler today at a coffee shop, and her whole body goes rigid, her face turning pale as she asks what he said to me, whether he told me anything that would make things worse than they already are. I don't answer her question directly, just pull out my phone and tell her she needs to hear something, that I recorded our entire conversation and she needs to listen to all of it before she says anything. She starts to protest, saying she doesn't want to hear whatever lies Tyler told me, but I hold up my hand and press play before she can say anything else. Tyler's voice fills the room, admitting he recognized my name the second Joan mentioned her husband, that he thought it was funny fate brought us back together like this. Joan's face shows confusion at first, then shock as Tyler's voice continues explaining how he wasn't planning anything initially, but couldn't resist once he saw how easy it was to get her attention. I watch her eyes widen as Tyler describes pursuing her deliberately, as he laughs about how she fell for his act so completely. Her hand comes up to cover her mouth, and I can see tears starting to form, but the recording keeps playing. Tyler's voice getting more cruel as he admits she was mostly just a way to get at me, that he enjoyed watching me squirm at her birthday dinner, knowing what was developing between them. Joan starts shaking her head like she can make his words not be true, but his voice continues explaining that she's hot. And fun to be around, but the real satisfaction was the game itself, seeing if he could take something from me again like he did in high school. By the time the recording gets to the part where Tyler says Joan deserves someone who makes her feel alive, but that person isn't really him either, she's sobbing so hard she can barely catch her breath. I let the recording play all the way through to the end, where Tyler tells me Joan's going to choose him and I should just file for divorce now, and then I stop it and put my phone back in my pocket. Joan is crying into her hands, her whole body shaking as she keeps saying she's so stupid over and over that she can't believe she fell for his act and threw away our marriage for someone who was just using her the entire time. She looks up at me with mascara running down her face and asks how she could have been so blind, how she didn't see what he was doing when I tried to warn her months ago. I feel this weird mix of satisfaction and sadness, watching her realize Tyler never cared about her at all, that everything he said and did was calculated to hurt me through her. Part of me wants to go sit next to her on the couch and tell her it's going to be okay, that we can get through this together. But the bigger part remembers all the times she chose to believe him over me, all the times she defended him when I expressed concerns about their relationship. She keeps apologizing and saying she knows sorry isn't enough, that she ruined everything for attention from someone who saw her as nothing more than a tool to hurt me with. I stay standing where I am and tell her that Tyler being a manipulative liar doesn't change the choices she made, that she still betrayed our marriage and put her confusion ahead of the vows we took 4 years ago. She nods and wipes her eyes with the back of her hand, saying she knows there's no excuse for what she did, and she understands completely if I want a divorce. Her voice breaks on the word divorce, and she asks if there's any chance I could forgive her eventually, if maybe with time and therapy we could find a way past this. I tell her honestly that I don't know yet, that I'm still processing everything, and I can't make promises about forgiveness when I'm this hurt and angry. Joan asks what I need from her right now, and I tell her I need complete honesty about everything that happened with Tyler, no more hiding things or downplaying what went on between them. She takes a shaky breath and her hands are trembling in her lap as she admits they kissed twice, once at the hotel when they met there to talk, and once in our kitchen the day his car was parked here. She swears it never went further than kissing, that both times she stopped it because the guilt was eating her alive and she couldn't go through with anything more. I ask her if she's telling me the complete truth, or if there's more she's still hiding, and she looks me straight in the eyes and says those 2 kisses were the extent of the physical contact between them. I don't know if I believe her completely because she's lied by omission so many times already, but at least she's being direct now instead of making me drag information out of her piece by piece. She asks if knowing that changes anything, and I tell her it doesn't really matter whether they had sex or just kissed, that the emotional betrayal is what destroyed my trust in her. She starts crying again and says she knows, that she understands the emotional affair was just as bad as a physical one would have been. I tell Joan she needs to find a new gym immediately and block Tyler completely from her phone and all social media, that if there's any chance of us working through this, she can't have any contact with him at all. She agrees right away and pulls out her phone with shaking hands, opening her contacts and blocking his number while I watch. Then she goes to Instagram and deletes him, then Facebook, showing me the screen each time so I can see she's actually doing it, and not just pretending. It feels like such a small thing after everything that's happened, but watching her cut him out of her digital life gives me this tiny bit of hope that maybe she's serious about fixing what she broke. She asks if there's anything else I need her to do, and I tell her that's a start. But rebuilding trust is going to take a lot more than blocking someone on social media. She nods and says she'll do whatever it takes, that she'll go to therapy and be completely transparent about everything from now on if I'm willing to give her that chance. Joan looks around our living room like she's seeing it for the first time and asks if she can move back home now that Tyler's out of the picture. I tell her not yet, that I still need space to process everything that's happened and figure out what I want for my future. She looks devastated, but she accepts it, standing up slowly and asking if she can at least grab a few more of her things to take back to Scarlett's place. I nod and follow her upstairs to our bedroom, watching as she pulls clothes from her closet and toiletries from the bathroom, with tears still running down her face. She moves carefully like she's afraid of doing something wrong, glancing at me every few seconds like she's checking to see if I'm still there or if I've changed my mind about letting her take anything. When she's packed a bag, she pauses at the bedroom door and tells me she loves me, that she knows she doesn't deserve another chance, but she's going to spend however long it takes, proving she can be the wife I deserve. I don't respond because I can't say I love her back right now, not when I'm this angry and hurt and confused about everything. She waits for a few seconds like she's hoping I'll say something, then walks downstairs and out the front door without looking back. After Joan leaves, I sit on our couch in the living room and finally let myself cry for the first time since this whole nightmare started. I've been holding everything together, staying strong and focused on gathering evidence and confronting Tyler. But now that I'm alone, the grief and anger come pouring out all at once. I cry for the marriage I thought we had that turned out to be built on incomplete honesty and my wife's willingness to believe a bully over her own husband. I cry for the version of myself that trusted Joan completely and never imagined she could betray me like this. I cry because even after hearing Tyler admit he was using her, part of me still wants to forgive Joan and try to save what we built together. The crying turns into full-body sobs, and I end up curled on my side on the couch, my face pressed into the cushions as years of pain from Tyler's bullying and this fresh betrayal mixed together into something overwhelming. Eventually, I run out of tears and just lie there feeling empty and exhausted, staring at the wall and wondering how I'm supposed to move forward from here. The next morning, I wake up still on the couch with a headache and my eyes swollen from crying. I check my phone and see messages from Joan asking if I slept okay and saying she's thinking about me, but I don't respond because I don't know what to say yet. Lucas sent me the name and number of a therapist he knows who works with trauma and betrayal, someone named Cordelia Waters, who apparently helped one of his other clients through a similar situation. I look her up online and see she has good reviews and specializes in helping people process both old wounds and current crises, which feels like exactly what I need right now. I call her office as soon as it opens at 9 and explain to the receptionist that I'm dealing with an urgent situation involving my marriage and childhood trauma resurfacing. She puts me on hold for a minute, then comes back saying Cordelia had a cancellation this afternoon and can see me at 3 if I can make it. I agree immediately and spend the rest of the morning trying to focus on work emails, but mostly just replaying everything that's happened over the past few days. I show up to Cordelia's office 15 minutes early and fill out intake paperwork asking about my history and what brought me to therapy. When she calls me back, she's a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a calm presence that makes me feel like I can actually talk to her honestly. I sit down in her office and spend the next hour telling her everything from Tyler's bullying in high school to him becoming Joan's trainer to the affair and yesterday's recording. She listens without interrupting and takes notes occasionally, nodding at certain points like she understands exactly what I'm describing. When I finish, she tells me that what Tyler did was deliberately exploit old wounds, that he recognized my vulnerability around him and used Joan to reopen trauma I thought I'd moved past years ago. She explains that Joan's betrayal hurt so much not just because of the affair itself, but because it confirmed the deepest fear Tyler planted in me back in high school, that I'm not good enough and people will always choose someone like him over someone like me. Hearing her put it into words like that makes something click in my brain, helping me understand why this situation has felt so devastating beyond just the normal pain of infidelity. Cordelia asks me what I want for my future, whether I can imagine a path forward that includes forgiving Joan and rebuilding trust in our marriage. I tell her honestly that I don't know, that part of me wants to save what we built together because I do still love her somewhere under all this anger and hurt. But another part of me feels like maybe our foundation was weaker than I thought if Joan could be swayed so easily by someone like Tyler. If she could choose to believe his version of events over mine for months. Cordelia nods and says both of those feelings are completely valid, that I don't have to decide right now whether to stay married or get divorced. She suggests we focus first on processing the trauma from both the past bullying and the current betrayal, working through those feelings before I make any permanent decisions about my marriage. She says people often rush to make big choices when they're in crisis mode, but the healthier approach is to give myself time and space to heal before deciding what my future looks like. We schedule another appointment for next week, and she gives me some homework about journaling my feelings and identifying triggers that connect current situations to past trauma. I leave Cordelia's office feeling slightly less overwhelmed than when I arrived, like maybe there's a path forward, even if I can't see the whole thing yet. On the drive home, I start thinking about Tyler and whether he should face any consequences beyond just losing Joan and me knowing what he did. He admitted on tape to deliberately pursuing a client because she was married to someone he wanted to hurt, which seems like the kind of thing that could get him fired or at least reported to whoever oversees personal trainers. I remember Joan mentioning the gym owner's name once, something like Theo, and when I get home I look up the gym's website to find contact information. The owner is listed as Theo Barber, and there's an email address for general inquiries, so I send a formal message requesting a meeting to discuss a serious concern about one of his trainers. I keep it professional and vague, not wanting to explain everything over email, but making it clear this is important enough that he should meet with me in person. He responds within an hour saying he can see me tomorrow afternoon at 2, and that he's concerned by the formal tone of my message and wants to understand what's going on. I confirm the appointment and spend the rest of the evening preparing what I'm going to say, how much of the recording I should play for him, and what outcome I'm hoping for from this meeting. The next afternoon, I arrive at the gym 15 minutes before my 2 o'clock appointment with Theo. The front desk person tells me to wait in the lobby area, so I sit on one of those hard plastic chairs near the water fountain and watch people come and go from their workouts. My phone is in my pocket with the recording already queued up to the most damaging parts where Tyler admits he targeted Joan because she was married to me. I practiced what I was going to say on the drive over, keeping it professional and focused on the facts instead of my personal anger. Theo comes out to meet me right at 2, a tall guy probably in his 50s with gray hair and a firm handshake. He leads me back to his office, which is small and cluttered with filing cabinets and framed photos of bodybuilding competitions. He gestures for me to sit in the chair across from his desk and asks what this is about, his expression concerned but neutral. I start by explaining that I'm the husband of one of his clients, Joan, who has been training with Tyler for the past 6 months. Theo nods like he recognizes the names, so I continue by saying that Tyler and I have a history from high school where he bullied me badly, and that I recently discovered he's been having an inappropriate relationship with my wife. Theo's face shifts from neutral to serious as I talk, and he leans forward with his elbows on the desk. I tell him I have a recording of a conversation with Tyler where he admits to deliberately pursuing Joan because she was married to me, that this was calculated revenge for our high school history. Theo asks to hear the recording, so I pull out my phone and play the section where Tyler says he recognized my name immediately when Joan first mentioned her husband, that he thought it was funny fate brought us back together. Then I play the part where Tyler admits he wasn't planning anything at first, but couldn't resist seeing how far he could push it when he realized Joan was responsive to his attention. Theo's jaw tightens as he listens, and when I play the part where Tyler says Joan is just hot and fun to be around, but mostly he enjoyed watching me squirm, Theo actually swears under his breath. The recording ends and I put my phone back in my pocket, watching Theo process what he just heard. He sits back in his chair and runs a hand through his gray hair, looking tired and angry at the same time. He tells me this isn't the first time he's had concerns about Tyler crossing professional boundaries with clients. There were 2 previous incidents where female clients complained about Tyler being too friendly or making comments that felt inappropriate, and Theo addressed both situations with formal warnings that went in Tyler's employee file. He says he kept Tyler on because the guy is good at his job and brings in a lot of business, plus the complaints weren't severe enough to justify firing him at the time. But this recording changes everything, because Tyler is admitting to deliberately manipulating a client for personal revenge, which is completely unacceptable and probably violates multiple professional ethics standards. Theo thanks me for bringing this forward and says he needs to contact his lawyer today to figure out the proper termination procedures and protect the gym from any liability issues. He asks if I'm planning to take legal action against Tyler or the gym, and I tell him honestly that I haven't decided yet, but right now I'm focused on dealing with my marriage. Theo nods and says he understands, then promises he'll handle this situation immediately and that Tyler won't be working here by the end of the week. I leave the gym feeling strange, like I accomplished something important, but it doesn't actually make me feel better. Tyler facing consequences at work doesn't fix the fact that Joan betrayed me or heal the years of trauma from his bullying. I drive back to my brother's apartment and spend the rest of the afternoon just sitting on his couch staring at nothing, my mind blank and exhausted. 2 days pass in a weird fog where I go to work and come back to my brother's place and try not to think too much about everything. Then Lucas calls me Wednesday afternoon while I'm eating lunch at my desk. He sounds excited as he tells me that Theo fired Tyler yesterday and that the gym owner is now considering whether to file a formal complaint with the state licensing board for personal trainers. Lucas says that kind of complaint could result in Tyler losing his certification entirely, which would make it hard for him to work as a trainer anywhere. I thank Lucas for the update and tell him I appreciate him checking in, but after we hang up I realize I feel empty instead of victorious. Tyler getting fired and possibly losing his license is justice, but it doesn't actually change anything about my situation with Joan. The betrayal still happened, the trust is still broken, and Tyler facing professional consequences doesn't magically repair my marriage or make me feel less hurt. That evening, Joan texts me from a number I almost don't recognize until I remember she's staying at Scarlett's place. The message says Tyler contacted her from a different phone number, that he was angry and blaming her for him losing his job at the gym. She says she didn't respond to him at all, but wanted me to know in case he tries to reach out to me too. I appreciate her telling me this, and immediately screenshot Tyler's message that she forwarded, saving it to a folder on my phone in case we need documentation later for a restraining order. I text Joan back thanking her for the heads up and telling her to block that number too. Then I add that if Tyler contacts her again from any number, she should document it but not engage. She responds quickly saying she will, and then there's a pause before another message comes through, asking if we can talk about starting counseling together. I stare at that message for a long time, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. Part of me wants to say no, that counseling feels like admitting I'm willing to work on the marriage when I'm still so angry and hurt. But